Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, all. Welcome to Swaroop IT Solutions. So, this is the fourth video of this series. So, in this particular video, we will learn how to set up the Active Directory infrastructure through Windows 2022 Server OS. So, we will practically execute following steps in this particular video. First, we will be creating Windows 2022 Server virtual machine. The host name will be Windows 2022 DC, that is WIN10 WIN11 DC through Hyper-V. Then we will be installing and configuring DNS Server role on WIN2022 DC system. Next step, we will be installing Active Directory Domain Services ADDS role on our WIN2022 DC system. Then we will be promoting that particular WIN2022 DC system as a domain controller, first root domain controller in a new forest. Next is we will be installing and configuring DHCP role on Windows 2022 DC system. Then we will be creating an Active Directory admin account through Active Directory users and computers. And then we will be creating two Windows client virtual machines, that is Windows 10 and Windows 11. Both are running on different operating systems through Hyper-V. Then we will be joining those two client systems to newly created domain. And last, we will be verifying the client connectivity with the domain controller. So all above steps we will be executing through GUI mode, that is your manual mode. So let's start. So what are the prerequisites for this particular video? We will be requiring Windows 2022 Server, then Windows 10 and Windows 11 operating systems ISO images. Then of course we will be requiring a physical system that will be acted as a Hyper-V host with at least 64 GB RAM. My Hyper-V host is having 128 GB RAM. So our lab setup goes like this. The first system of course is our physical system, Win2022 base system, which is running on Windows 2022 Data Center Server OS. Its role will be Hyper-V host, that is our physical machine. Its hardware configuration is 1 TB of hard disk, latest i7 CPU with VTX technology, 128 GB RAM. Its local IP will be 10.1.1.1, and the system model is of course physical server or a workstation. Next is we will be creating our first VM. Its host name will be Win2022 DC, domain controller DC. This is just a specific name I have just given, you can give any name. It is again running on Windows 2022 Data Center Server operating system. Its role will be Active Directory Domain Controller, that is ADDS. Its hardware configuration will be 100 GB virtual hard disk, virtual CPU and 24 GB RAM. Its local IP will be 10.1.100 and it will be a virtual machine. And next two machines are our Active Directory client machines. One is Windows 10 CL and one is Windows 11 CL. So one will be running on Windows 10, that is version 22H2, and second will be running on Windows 11 version 23H2. Both will be acting as an Active Directory client system. Both are having similar hardware configuration like 100 GB virtual hard disk, then virtual CPU and 16 GB RAM. Their IP will be provisioned by the DHCP server, which will be hosted on Windows 2022 DC system. and both machines will be virtual machine. Okay. So this is just like a logical diagram, the Active Directory infrastructure logical diagram, what we will be setting up in this particular video. So you can see over here, our main physical machine is Win 2022 base machine, which will be acting as an Hyper-V host. It is having a local IP of 10.1.1.1. Okay, so this particular Hyper-V host is hosting 3 virtual machines. So this particular red line is Hyper-V connectivity. So this Hyper-V host will be having connectivity with all 3 machines. This is an Hyper-V connectivity. Okay, and the second machine will be our Windows 2022 DC, that is Active Directory Domain Controller. It will be also our DNS server and DHCP server. Its IP will be 10.1.100. And now this particular brown line is what the Active Directory connectivity. So this particular domain controller will be having a connectivity with our Windows 10 CL and Windows 11 CL machines. Both machines are acting as an AD client, and both machines will get IPs from DHCP. So this is just a logical diagram what we are going to practically implement now. So let's start with our practical steps. So step number 1, create a folder in Windows 2022 base systems external data partition as follows. So my external data partition is like J drive. I will be creating a fresh folder called Win2022 DC. So I'm coming back to my base machine now, and through Windows Explorer I'm going to J drive, and I will create a folder called DC. Okay, this is the first folder what we are creating over here. Now let's go back to our PPT. Now one more folder I need to create as JWin10 CL, and third one will be JWin11 CL. So those two folders we will be using for storing our virtual machines. So all 3 folders are for storing 3 different virtual machines. So I'm coming back here and creating 2 more folders. Win10 CL and Win11 CL. Okay, so our 3 folders are now ready. Next step is we need to create a new virtual machine through Hyper-V. So open Hyper-V Manager, right click system name and create a new VM. So we'll go back to our Hyper-V Manager. I will right click on the host, Hyper-V host name, and I will say new virtual machine. On before you begin screen, click next. Next step is we need to specify the new virtual machine name as Windows 2022 DC, Win2022 DC, and location as JWin2022 DC, and click next. So I will put in the virtual machine name. I will store, and I will go to my J drive and I will go to the folder what we have created. Okay, select. I will say next. So next step is we need to select the virtual machine generation as generation 2, which is the latest standard, and click next. Generation 2, next. Next, we need to specify the preferable memory for our virtual machine WIN10 DC as 24 GB and click next. So 24576 will be our 24 GB. Now if you are doing this lab setup at your own lab and if your machine doesn't have that much RAM, you can give a preferable RAM like 8 GB or 10 GB, but at least 8 GB is what recommended for 2022 server. 16 GB will be suggested one. I am giving 24 GB because I am having that much RAM available on my Hyper-V host. Okay, next. So specify the network connection as internal and click next. So here I have already created these external and internal switches through Hyper-V host. So if you want to learn how to create those switches to Hyper-V, you can refer to my previous videos. I have already created both the switches, so I am as of now selecting the internal switch for configuring the networking, means internal connectivity between our DC system and other VMs. I will select internal and I will say next. Next step is under create a new virtual hard disk wizard. Specify preferable HDD size as 100 GB and make sure that VHDX file name and location is showing correctly and click next. So here the location it is taking as GUI drive WIN10 DC, which is correct. Under that it is creating one more folder with the same VM name, and under that it is creating the folder called virtual hard disk. So this is the default path for any virtual machine's hard disk in Hyper-V. So this path is correct, and the only thing I need to change over here is the size of the VHDX, which is 100 GB, and I will say next. Next step is select install an operating system later option and click next. So we will install the operating system later. You can select the second option also if you are familiar with the Hyper-V, but as of now I am going through all the basic steps. Okay, so I am just selecting install operating system later. I will configure the operating systems and booting in the later stages. Okay, so I will say next. Now verify the summary for the newly created WIN10 DC VM and click finish. So our VM summary will be like name is WIN10 DC, generation 2, 24 GB RAM, network is internal connectivity, hard disk path is the default one, and operating system will be installed at a later time. I will say finish. So it will create my virtual machine. Next step is we need to go to the settings of the new virtual machine. So through Hyper-V manager. So I will go to my Hyper-V manager console. I will right click and I will go to settings. So through virtual machine settings window, select SCSI controller, DVD drive, add. We need to add one DVD drive over here through SCSI controller because we need to map our operating system ISO. So I will select SCSI controller, I will select DVD drive and I will say add. So it will add the DVD drive over here. So next step is through VM settings window, select a DVD drive, browse and map your Windows 2022 data center OS ISO. So over here I need to select the image file. DVD drive is already selected. Image file, I will say browse, and I will go to the path which is already in cache. So I will select my Windows 2022 Server OS ISO. So this is the latest one for me. Now I will say open. So it will map that particular ISO, Windows Server 2022 Data Center GUI. Okay, I will say apply. Okay. Next is click on firmware and make sure that you set the first boot device as a DVD drive for this VM setting. So I will go to setting one more time, and in the firmware setting of Windows 2022 DCVM, in the firmware I will make my DVD drive as a first boot device. Okay, I will say apply. Okay. So we have already applied our change. So next is double click on newly created Win 2022 DCVM and start it. And then we will boot from our Windows 2022 Data Center OS ISO, and we will start our OS installation as usual. So I will go to the Hyper-V Manager, double click on it, so it will open my VM console, and since we have already given the first boot device as our ISO, it will automatically boot from our OS ISO. So I will start it and I will press enter to boot from the CD DVD. So now it will start our OS installation. Let's say next, install now. It's a simple straightforward installation of a operating system. I'll select, I don't have a product key as of now. I will say I accept the agreement. Next, custom. It will show my 100 GB virtual hard disk. I will not create any further partitions since I need to use the 100% virtual hard disk space. I will simply say next. So operating system will automatically format and create a 100% partition, and it will start installing my Windows 2022 Server OS. Okay, so as of now the installation has been started. It will take 10 to 15 minutes to complete. So I am pausing this video at this point. Once the OS installation gets completed, I will come back with the further practical steps. So our OS installation is just about to finish. I am restarting. So now my OS installation got completed. I am entering my admin password. I am logging with the administrator for the first time. Let's go back to our PPT for the next step. So the step 18 which we have just executed, once Windows 2022 DCVM's OS installation completes, log in with the administrator account. So we have just logged in with the administrator account. So let's move on to the next step. So next step is we need to set the Windows 2022 DC system's local time zone as Indian Standard Time with following PowerShell ISC admin session command. Set time zone India Standard Time. Since I am residing in India, so I am just changing the time zone according to my Indian Standard Time. So what I will do is I will open my PowerShell ISC. It's a simple command. I will say run as an administrator. You can see over here it is currently taking your US time zone. I'm changing it. So I will say set time zone India Standard Time. Keep an eye over here. Now it has changed to Indian Standard Time. So this is completed. Next step is we need to disable the Windows firewall through control panel. Why do we require to disable? Just to have a proper internal network connectivity. So we'll go to the control panel. Make it small icons, Windows Defender firewall. Now these are all looks very small steps, but those are important ones also. If you are missing any particular step, you might face problems in the further steps. So rather than, we will go right from the basic to the advanced level. So I will just disable the Windows firewall. Next is we need to assign the IP address. So open network and sharing center, change adapter options, remove IP version 6 because we are not using IP version 6, and assign a following IP configuration to available network adapter. So I will go to the network and internet setting. I'll click on change adapter options, go to properties of it. First I will remove the IP6, IP4, 10.1.100. Subnet mask will be this. Default gateway we don't require as of now, and I will say even if you are specifying default gateway, it will not take. 10.1.100. Let's try to give the default gateway also. Let's see, because it will not take the local IP as default gateway, but let's try. Okay, so this will be our IP configuration. Let's verify it according to our PPT one more time. 10.1.100. Subnet mask is default one, 10.1.100 default gateway, and DNS is also 10.1.100. Okay, so I will say OK over here. OK. Refresh. So we have given the IP address 10.1.100, subnet mask the default one 255.0.0.0, default gateway 10.1.100, DNS 10.1.100. So this has been completed. Next step is we need to rename our system with a proper host name. So our host name will be WIN2022DC, and we need to restart the system, which is a mandatory after the system's host name change. So what I will do, I will go to the system properties, some properties, I will go to advanced system. There are 2-3 different ways how you can rename the PC. You can rename from here also, but I will go to some other option, advanced system setting. Here first I will just make sure that my VM performance will be at its peak, so I will adjust. I will go to computer name now. I will say change, and here I will change my host name. I will say OK. I will say OK. Close. It will ask me for a restart. I will say restart now. Let me log in with the administrator again. Let's move on to the next step. So once Windows 2022 DC system restarts, make sure that the Windows 2022 DC system is still having virtual DVD-ROM and Windows 2022 data center ISO mapped to it. Why do you require it? We will see. First, I will confirm, because sometimes it will unmap your ISO automatically after the OS installation. So I will confirm. Yes, it is mapped. Okay. Next step is we need to install our .NET 3.5 and .NET 4.8 frameworks. Okay. So through Windows 2022 DC system, Server Manager, add roles and features, install .NET 3.5 and .NET Framework 4.8 and ASP.NET 4.8 features. Okay. So I will go back to the system. So don't show. I will disable this startup option also. Click on add roles and features. Next. And here you need to verify that it is showing the correct hostname and correct IP address. No like mocking IP address or like 169 or not should be present over here. It should be a static IP whatever we have given, and the hostname should be also a proper one. Next. Here, next, and features, I will select .NET Framework 3.5 and ASP.NET 4.8. .NET Framework 4.8 it is already installed. I will install ASP.NET 4.8. I will send. Okay. Let's go back to our PPT. Okay. So make sure while installing above .NET 3.5 and .NET Framework 4. And ASP.NET 4.8 features that you are specifying correct alternative installation source path as D sources SSX, where D drive is your virtual DVD-ROM with Windows 2022 data center ISO mapped to it. That's why we have already confirmed that it is already mapped. So I will first press next, and then I will specify alternate path. I will open the Windows Explorer. Here is our ISO. I will go to sources. I will go to SSX. And here I will copy this path, paste it over here, say OK. So click install, and once installation finishes, click close to complete the features installation. Say install, let it install. So our .NET 3.5 and ASP.NET 4.8 installation got succeeded. I will say close over here. Next is we need to restart our system once installation done. So I will close everything and I will restart the machine once, just to make sure that installation completes successfully. I will log in with the local admin again. The next step is we need to install the DNS Server role on our Windows 2022 DC, which is one of the prerequisite for Active Directory domain controller. So through Windows 2022 DC system, Server Manager, install roles and features, install DNS Server role, and when prompted, click on add features. So we'll go back here. I will open the Server Manager. add roles and features. Next. Again hostname IP should be correct. Next. From here server roles I will select DNS servers. I will say add features. Complete the DNS server installation with the rest of the default values and restart the system once installation finishes. Okay, so I will say next. Features we don't require, DNS server, next, and then install. So currently it is installing our DNS server. So our DNS server role installation got succeeded. I will say close, and one more time I will just restart the machine. It will just take 1 minute or so. Let's move on to the next step. So after system restarts, open DNS console through server manager, tools, DNS. So I will open the server manager, tools, DNS. Through DNS console, expand your server name, right click on forward lookup zone and create a new zone. Okay, so I will expand this name, right click forward lookup zone, new zone. Now before we are creating our new forward lookup zone or reverse lookup zone, let me just give you a basic idea what we are doing. DNS is for name resolution, as most of you must have been knowing it. The forward lookup zone is used for converting your host name or a normal machine name into IP address, and reverse lookup zone is used for converting your IP address to host name. So we need to create both the zones in order to our DNS server function properly. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. So through new zone wizard, select primary zone, next, and then zone name, next, default DNS file name, next, and do not allow dynamic updates, next, and finish to complete the DNS wizard. So we need to select some of the options as shown over here. So we will go back to our practical steps. I will first wizard, I will say next. I will select primary zone, next. I will give a general name for my zone, FW, because this is forward lookup zone. You can give any name, then create a new file. It will automatically create a file name over here. I will say next. Do not allow dynamic updates because we don't require the dynamic updates as of now. I will say next, and in the end I will say finish. Next is we need to create now the reverse lookup zone. So right click on reverse lookup zone, create new zone, next, primary zone, next, IP4 reverse lookup zone. Okay, so I will click on reverse lookup zone, new zone, next, primary zone, next, IP4 reverse lookup zone. Okay, now next we need to enter the first 3 octets of our IP address range. So our IP address starts from 10.11 and then 100 or 200 or whatever. So our first 3 octets are 10.1.1. So I will put that particular octet over here. I will say 10.1.1. Okay. Fourth can be your variable address as per your system. Okay, but the first 3 octets will be same. Why it is requiring? Because it is requiring this particular octet range in order to reverse map it to the host name of a particular system. Okay, so I will say next. So select default DNS file name, then next, then do not allow dynamic updates, again next, and then finish to complete the wizard. So I will select the default file name, I will say next, do not allow dynamic updates, next, and in the end I will say finish. Okay, so we have created forward lookup zone and we have created the reverse lookup zone also. Next step is we need to restart our DNS service one time because we have just created the new zones, so it should take effect after the service restart. So I will right click on the server, go to all tasks, and I will say restart. So it will restart my DNS service. So this is just for the refreshment purpose. Now since we have installed our prerequisite, now we will install our main Active Directory domain controller role. So through WIN10 WIN11 DC system server manager, install roles and features, install Active Directory domain services role, and when prompted click add features. So I will close this DNS console and coming back to my server manager main window, click on add roles and features, next, next, IP and host name is correct, next, and I will select the second option, Active Directory domain services. I will say add features. Next is select all default values and click install to complete the ADDS role installation. So what I will do is I will say next. In the features we don't require anything. Next, ADDS role summary. Over here I will say next. Confirmation that we need to install the Active Directory domain services role. I will say install. Okay. So now installation has been started for Active Directory domain services role. So now our Active Directory domain services role has been installed. Installation succeeded. Okay. So once ADDS role installation is completed successfully, click close and restart the Windows 2022 DC system once. So I will say close and I will restart the machine one more time, just to make sure that our role installation changes got reflected successfully. Let's move on to the next step. The next step is we need to promote this particular machine as a first root domain controller. We have installed the Active Directory domain services role. Now we need to promote this. Now these are two different steps what Microsoft has defined, I think from the start of Windows 2008 server, because previously in 2003 server or 2000 server, when you are running DC promo, in the same wizard you can install the Active Directory role also, and you can define your domain controller promotion also. But now it is from since the release of 2008 server, These are two different steps. That means installing a role is one step and promoting your domain controller is the next step. So now next step is, after system restarts, through server manager, notification triangle, click on the promote this server to domain controller. So now we are promoting this server to a domain controller. Okay, so I will go back to my machine. I will open my server manager. And as you can see over here, there is a triangle. That means there is some kind of a notification or some kind of an work left behind for us to do. Okay, so I will click on this, and here I will click on this link, promote the server to a domain controller. Okay, it will start our domain controller promotion deployment configuration. Okay. So in the wizard, I will select add a new forest option and give new domain name as sccmcb.local and click next. So here there are three options available over here. Add a domain control to the existing domain, add a new domain to an existing forest, or add a new forest. So we don't have a already existing forest, so I will select the third option, add a new forest, and I will give the root domain name as sccmcb.local. Now why local? You can define .com or .in if those are the public domains, but if you are using a local domain for a local network, then the extension should be .local. So I'm just putting up sccmcb.local. This is a generic name. You can select any name as per your choice. I will say next. By the time it is going forward, we will go back to our PPT. So next step is we need to select the default forest functional level and domain functional level. So we will specify that one, and then we will specify our directory services restore mode password also. So I will just explain these options in a brief for you. If you are having an existing forest or existing domain controllers running, so you can select your domain functional level and forest functional level accordingly. As of now we don't have any existing domain, so I will select the highest available forest functional level and domain functional level also. So I will not change anything over here. And then in the directory services restore mode, if you are restoring your Active Directory through system state backup in the future or something like that, you will be requiring this password. It is mandatory one, so I will just put in the password. I will say next. So click next on DNS delegation warning, accept default NetBIOS name, accept default installation paths also, next review the options, and next. So we will complete all these 3-4 steps. On the DNS delegation, we don't require to create any DNS delegation as of now, so I will say next. The NetBIOS name, it will automatically detect the root domain controller's name as per the provision what we have given in the previous step. So NetBIOS domain name is sccmcb. You can see over here it has removed the .local. Now why do we require this NetBIOS domain name? Suppose if you are having a legacy operating systems like Windows XP or Windows 7, those systems can be connected through your NetBIOS domain naming standard, not through your latest DNS standards. Okay, so for those one, this provision is there, so I will not change anything over here. default NetBIOS domain name, whatever it has taken is correct. I will say next. Now these are the default installation paths for Active Directory. So if you are installing Active Directory in a production environment, you should select another partition apart from the operating system partition. As of now, I am not changing anything because this is a general lab setup, but in the production you can select over here, you can change to D drive or E drive, external data partition, which will be useful for your Active Directory recovery in the later future state if you require. Okay, so always choose your secondary partition in the production environment. So I will not change anything over here. I will say next. And now all the options whatever we have given. New domain name is sshmcb.local, NetBIOS name is sshmcb, forest functional level 2016, domain functional level 2016, and then it will be, since this is a root domain controller and first domain controller, it will be acting as a global catalog also, DNS server also, and we have not specified any DNS delegation, and our database path is default one. Okay, the DNS service will be configured on server, this thing. So all the options I have reviewed. I will say next. Now it will check for the Active Directory domain services prerequisites, that all the prerequisites are in place or not. It will give us a report, and then finally we will click on install. So you can see over here we have just completed all these options. Review next. So let's go to the next step. So once all prerequisites passed, click install, and system will automatically reboot upon ADDS configuration wizard completion. So you can see all prerequisite checks passed successfully. I will say install. So it will now start installing my Active Directory domain services role promotion. The role has been already been installed. Now it is promoting my this particular machine WIN 2022 DC to a domain controller. So let it complete. I will pause this video as of now. I will come back to you once this promotion got completed. So you can see now it is already asking me, the computer is being restarted because Active Directory domain services was installed or removed. Okay, so it will automatically restart. See, it has automatically restarted. I have not clicked on anything. Let it install, and then we will move on to the next step. The next step is, once Windows 2022 DC restarts, log in with the administrator account and open control panel, and we need to disable our domain controllers profile for the firewall. Okay, so let's see how to do it. Our system got restarted. I can see the difference over here in the login screen. The domain name is visible. So now we are no longer logging to the local system, although we can log in, but by default it is taking the domain login. So if I am putting, let's say I'm just showing you, if I am putting dot and this thing, so it will be a local one, but since this is a domain controller, we need to log into the domain controller. So I will just put administrator, and I will put my password. So now I have logged in to the domain controller, not to the local machine, but it has already been promoted as a domain controller. Now next step is, we have already logged in with the administrator account, and we need to disable our firewall for the domain profile. So I will go back to the control. Let's see, Windows Defender firewall. You can see over here one more profile. The firewall profile has been added as a domain networks. Okay, previously only to profiles were there. We have already disabled those 2 profiles in the previous step, but now the third profile has been added. Since this machine has been promoted as a domain controller, we need to disable this one also. So I will go back here and I will say turn off. Okay, domain controller. Now in the production, you should not disable your Windows firewall on any of your system. Invariably, you can define your firewall rules, that which all ports are required for your connectivity and which all ports are not required. So you can block it on the firewall level, and here the Windows Defender firewall will work accordingly. But this is a simple lab setup, that's why I'm just disabling it. Close this. So next step is we need to create one admin account or one Active Directory account, which will be like our master Active Directory account, which will be having the admin access for the whole Active Directory infrastructure. Now it is not recommended to use the local administrator or the master administrator account for any of the operations part. So I will create a secondary account which will be equivalent to my admin account. Okay, so open Active Directory users and computers through Windows Server Manager and tools. So I will go back to my machine. I will open Server Manager. And I click on tools and click on Active Directory users and computers. So now it will open the Active Directory users and computers screen. Okay. Now create a new user as SCCM admin through Active Directory users and computers. Assign a new preferable password and make sure that user must change password option at next logon option deselected and password never expires option is selected. So I will expand this domain controller tree. I will go to the users first. I will say right click new and user. Here I will give the first name SCCM admin, same as my user login name. You can give any account name as per your preference, like DC admin, AD admin or whatever. For my lab purpose I am just giving a general name like SCCM admin. I will say next. Now here I need to specify the password. Now if you are creating a normal user, this option should be selected because user need to change the password according to his preference, but as of now this is our master account, we don't require this option. Deselect this. I will say password never expired, so it will be a permanent password. I will say next. Sorry, just a minute. And now I will say finish. So now my SCCM admin normal user, Active Directory user has been created. Now I need to give the rights to this user account as a full AD admin rights. So let's move on to our PPT for the next step. So we need to add our SCCM admin account into 3 groups. Those are domain admins, enterprise admins and schema admins. Now before hitting the OK, let me just explain you what all these three groups are required, why those three groups are required, what are the meaning for those three groups. Domain admins means you can do any domain level change to your Active Directory, like installing a new domain, removing a domain controller, or removing or adding your domain controller roles, FISMO roles. All these things you can do through domain admins accounts. Through enterprise admins, you can do the changes up to the forest level, means not only on your own domain, but for the other domains in the same forest also you can do the changes. That is your enterprise admin. And last is schema admins, like Active Directory schema is having its own LDAP architecture, so those schema changes or extending your schema with the third-party applications or the other Microsoft applications like Microsoft, all those changes through schema you can do if you are part of a schema admin. So I am just giving in 100% admin rights to my SCCM admin account. So I am adding this account to these three groups. I will say OK. The add group operation was successfully completed. I will say OK. So next step is on Windows 2000 DC system, sign out from the administrator account and sign in using the new SCCM admin account. So now currently we have logged in with the administrator account, if you remember. So I will close everything, and instead of sign in also I will restart it. Restart is something as good as sign out only. So, and once restarted, I will log in with the SCCM admin account. So our system has been restarted. Let me log in with the SCCM admin account. So why we are able to log in with the SCCM admin account? Because we are given the full rights, including your logging locally rights to your domain controller. Okay. So this is an SCCM admin account profile. That's why it has again relaunched our server manager at the startup. So I will close this one. Let's move on to the next step. The next step is on Windows 2022 DC system, log on with the SCCM admin account that we have already done and install DHCP server role through server manager and click next to all prompting windows. Now we need to install the DHCP server role on this particular domain controller. Okay. In the production, you can have a separate DHCP server role also, but for this lab purpose, I am installing the DHCP role on the same machine as our domain controller's machine. So I will open my server manager. Add roles and features. Next. You can see over here now, since we have promoted this machine to a domain controller, it is showing the FQDN, fully qualified domain name, and the address is correct. So I will say next. Here I will select DHCP server and add features. Why it is allowing us to install? Because our SCCM admin is having full rights. I will say next. Finally I will click on install. By the time it is installing, let's go back to our PPT and let's see what will be our next step. So after the successful DHCP server role installation, click close and restart Windows 2022 DC system once. So currently it is installing. Let it install and then we will close and restart the machine once. So our server role installation got successfully completed. Our DHCP server role, I will say close. I will close this one also and I will restart it once, just to make sure that our role installation taking successfully effect after the restart. Let me log in with the SSM admin account. Let's see the next step. Now next step is we need to configure our DHCP server role now. Now as I said earlier, Microsoft has given this preference to installing a role as a one separate step, and configuring that role further is the second step. So now we are moving to the configuration part. So after Windows 2022 DC system restarts, complete the DHCP configuration through Server Manager, yellow triangle, by clicking next and commit and close. So I will go back to my machine. Open the Server Manager. Click on the triangle and you can see the complete DHCP configuration. I will click on that link. I will say next, and it has to be authorized. Your DHCP server has to be authorized. So I will use the same credentials as SSM admin I have logged in with. I will say commit. You can see over here, creating the security groups and authorizing DHCP server. Both steps got completed. I will say close. Okay. But our DHCP server role configuration still not completed. This is just an authorization. Now we will move on to the next step. So next step is we need to open the DHCP console through Server Manager, Tools, DHCP server. So I will go to the Tools and DHCP. Then I need to expand the server name, and on the DHCP console I need to expand the server name and IP for new scope. Now I need to create a new scope. What does that scope means? Means the range by which the client will get the DHCP IP. Okay, so I need to create a IP4 DHCP scope. IP6 we are not using, so I will go to the IP4. Okay, and on the IP4 I need to select the new scope option. So right click on it and say new scope. The next step is on new scope creation. First screen, click next, then give a new name to the DHCP scope on the second screen and click next. On the first screen, welcome screen, I will say next. Here the scope name, I will give a generic name like DHCP. You can give any name. Next. And now this is the important step. Specify the new IP address range for DHCP scope and click next. So I need to define the whole range from which IP to which IP DHCP can use to assign those IPs. So my first IP will be 10.1.1.1 and the last IP will be of that series only, 10.1.1.254. So I am just giving the whole range for DHCP to use and to release those IPs as an DHCP provision. Okay, this is the full range. But on a further steps, subnet mask and length it has already taken. Okay, next step is I need to give the exclusion range also. Means out of this 10.1.1.1 to 10.1.1.254, what are IP ranges I can exclude. Let's say I am having from 1 to 100, I am having the static IP range which are assigned to my servers. So I will exclude that one. So add an appropriate exclusion IP address range. Okay, for this lab setup my DHCP exclusion range will be 10.1.1.1 to 10.1.1.150. So I am excluding the 150 IP address ranges. So my DHCP client will get 10.1.1.151 as its first legal DHCP IP. So just keep a note of this particular IP address, because we will be installing our AD client also in the further steps, and it should get this IP automatically. Okay, so let's create an exclusion range also. I will say next, add exclusion and delay. So I will put the exclusion as 10.1.1.1 to 10.1.1.150. Okay, I will say add. Okay, this is my exclusion delay. I will say next. Next is click next on lease period. Default is 8 days. Click next on configure options, also Windows. So by default the release period is 8 days. You can maximize or minimize this one. That means any particular client which has got the DHCP IP, it will preserve that IP for 8 days if that machine is online, and if other client machines are also having sufficient IP range addresses. Okay, I will say next, configure DHCP options. Yes, I want to configure these options now. Next option is so specify the default gateway as 10.1.1.100 and DNS server and WIN server values in DHCP scope. It should take DNS server value automatically. If you are not using default gateway and WINs, leave these screens blank and click next. So it depends upon your network configuration. So router or default gateway, I am just giving the same IP as my domain controller, but in the production you can consult with your network team, or if you are only managing it, give your router IP over here. So I will say add. Next, here it has already taken my DNS name as 10.1.1.100 because we have already installed the DNS role on the same server. So next, WIN server we don't require to specify anything. I will say next. Now click next on activate this scope now option and click finish to complete the wizard. Restart the DHCP server once by right clicking the server name, select all tasks and restart. So first of all I will activate this scope. Yes, I want to activate this scope. Next, complete the new scope wizard. I will say finish, and now I will restart this DHCP server services. I will say all tasks and restart. just to make sure that whatever scope we have created, whatever changes we have made, exclusion range, DHCP lease, everything will take effect after the restart of the service. So now it has been restarted. So our DHCP server role installation and configuration completes over here. Let's move on to the next step. So now we need to create 2 more virtual machines. So repeat the steps from 1 to 20 to create 2 more virtual machines as shown in the sideline table. So in the sideline table you can see WIN10 CL, WIN11 CL, okay, which are running on 2 different operating systems, Windows 10 and Windows 11. Virtual memory 16 GB, 16 GB, virtual hard disk 100 GB, 100 GB. IP it will automatically get from DHCP, and their FQDN will be this after the domain joining. So let me go back to our physical machine, and through Hyper-V Manager I will create those 2 virtual machines. I will start the OS installation also. So I will say new virtual machine, next, name will be WIN10 CL, and if you remember we have already created our folders in the J drive, so I will select that folder WIN10 CL, next, generation 2, next, RAM will be 16 GB, next, connectivity which is important for the Active Directory connectivity also, internal switch I will select, hard disk will be 100 GB, path should be correct one, next, install the operating system later also I can select, but as of now I am selecting a second option, operating system from a bootable image file. I click on browse and I will go back to my Windows 10 2022 H2 and x64. Okay, so this is the latest one. I will say next, verify the summary, I will say finish. Okay, I will double click on it and I will start this machine. I will boot from CD DVD. Remember this is Windows 10 CL, that means Windows 10 machine as an Active Directory client. We'll say next over here, install now. Accept licensing terms, custom 100 GB, next. Now it has started installation for Windows 10 client machine. By the time it is installing, in the sideline I will create the third virtual machine also. So create a new virtual machine and then WIN11 CL, browse, go back to your J drive and select the WIN11 CL folder. Now I will say next. I will say next, generation 2, of course, next, RAM will be again 16 GB, next, internal connectivity, next, path should be the same one, JWin11CL, your hard disk size will be 100 GB, next, I will select install operating system from bootable image, and now I will select my Windows 11. Okay, and now I will select the latest one, Windows 11 23 H2. I will say next, verify the summary, I will say finish. Now I will start this Windows 11 CL machine also. Boot from the CD DVD. and now I will say next, install now. Don't have a product key. I accept. Next, custom, then drive 0 of course, 100 GB. Now it has started installation of Windows 11 also. Okay, now you can see over here invariably 2 client machines installation is going on, Windows 10 CL also and Windows 11 CL also. So I'm pausing this video at this point. Let the installation finishes for both the client. I will create the local account also on this one, and then I will come back once the desktop screen comes on both the machines, and then we will proceed with our next step. It will take 20 to 30 minutes, so I will not going to run the video for that much time. I'm pausing this one. Let me come back once this installation finishes. Alright, so welcome back. Now both of my Windows 10 CL and Windows 11 CL OS installation got completed, and I have logged in with the local user account also. So let's move on to the next step. Now on WIN10 CL system we will complete some of the steps, and then we will repeat those steps on Windows 11 also. So on WIN10 CL systems, once the OS installation finishes, complete the post installation tasks which we have done, and log in with the local admin user, that also we have done. Okay, next step is, once logged in with local admin user, disable the local Windows Defender firewall on WIN10 CL VM system. So I'm opening the control panel from WIN10 CL system. Disabling the Windows firewall. Next is, through Windows 10 CL VM, open command prompt and execute ipconfig/all command to confirm that it has obtained the DHCP IP from Windows 2022 DC system. So as we have installed our DHCP server, let's confirm whether it has given the valid IP to our WIN10 CL system. So I will say ipconfig, and you can see over here it has given the IP 10.1.1.152, which is a valid DHCP IP for our Active Directory domain controller. Okay, so this is correct, and default gateway also it has taken the same. Okay, now next step is, we need to join this machine to our domain controller. Now through Windows 10 CL VM, right click, start menu, system, advanced system settings, computer name, and change. So I'll close this one first. Right click, we'll say settings, not this one, sorry. We'll directly go to the system here, and I will go to advanced system settings. From here, first I will remove this, all the other options, best performance, and from here I will go to computer configuration, computer name. Okay, from here we can join this machine to our domain controller. So I need to click on change. I will say change. Next is, I need to change the computer name as WIN10 CL as my host name, preferable host name, and in the domain member of domain I need to give my domain name as ssmcb.local and click OK. So I have given the computer name as WIN10CL, domain name as ssmcb.local, and now I will say OK. So it will ask me for the credentials, the username and password which is having a right to join the domain. Okay. Next step is, upon asking, put in the SSM admin user credentials and click OK. You can see over here, welcome to ssmcb.local domain. That means our machine has been successfully joined to the domain. So upon successful domain joining, welcome message, click OK. Click OK, close and restart now for mandatory restart of the system after domain joining completion. So I will say OK, I will say close, I will close this one and I will say restart now. Now this is a mandatory restart step once your machine has been joined to a domain. By the time it is restarting, let's see the next step. Once restarted, log on to WIN10CL system through SCCM admin domain account. And now I will log on to this particular system with the other user option. I will log on with SCCM admin. So as you can see, SCCM admin is our Active Directory domain administrator, enterprise administrator, forest administrator, schema administrator. So you can log on to any system which has joined to this particular domain using SCCM admin account. Okay, so let's move on to the next step. Once logged in through WIN10CL system, open system properties through right clicking start menu, then system, advanced system settings, computer name. So we will do that. Go to the system and then advanced system settings, computer name, and note down the FQDN of WIN10CL system, which should be as follows: win10cl.ssmcb.local. You can see over here, this is a fully qualified domain name. Win10CL is a client host name and then your domain name. Okay, and our domain, it is showing as ssmcb.local. That means this machine has successfully joined to the domain controller. Let's move on to the next step. Now we need to repeat the steps from 61 to 71 on Windows 11 CL system also to confirm its successful domain joining. So what I will do is I will directly go to my WIN11 CL system. First I will confirm whether it has taken the right DHCP IP or not. You can see it has taken the right DHCP IP. Then let's move on to the system properties. Click on advanced system settings. First I will make the performance as best one, and then go to the computer name and I will change the computer name to WIN11 CL. ssmcb.local, the domain name. I will say OK. It should ask for the password. So I am putting SSM admin account credentials. I will say OK. It should ask for the restart. So welcome to the SSMCB local domain. I will say OK. One more time OK. Close. And I will restart now. So once this Windows 11 machine also restarts, I will log on with the SSM admin account and I will verify the FQDN of Windows 11 CL system also. Now it is getting logged on with the SSM admin. First time it may take 1 or 2 minutes because it is creating a new domain profile onto this particular Windows 11 CL system or any system which has been logged on with the first time with the domain credentials. So now you can see we have logged in through SSM admin. Now we will verify our FQDN also. So in the system properties I will click on advanced system settings and I will go to computer, and you can see over here the FQDN is win11cl.ssmcb.local, which is correct. The domain is ssmcb.local. So this we have verified. Let's move on to the next step. And now we are coming to the last step. We need to confirm the connectivity between our client system and the domain controller. So what we will do, from WIN10 CL and Windows 11 system, open command prompt with admin access and run following command. Which command we need to run? It's a simple command, gp update /force. Okay, so let's go back to WIN10 CL system first. I will open command prompt and I will say gp update /force. So it is currently updating your policy, Active Directory policy. So there are two types of policies what it has been updated, computer policy and user policy, and both got successfully updated. Same thing we need to do on Windows 11 system also. So By the time it is updating, see the note that if both group policies, that is user and computer policies, getting completed successfully as shown in the sideline figure, it confirms that our Active Directory domain controller's connectivity with client systems is working fine. Okay, so as you can see on Windows 11 also, computer policy update and user policy update completed successfully. Same for the Windows 10 CL system also. Okay, so this confirms that both the client systems are communicating properly with your Active Directory domain controller. Okay, so thanks all for your time. This is Swaroop IT Solutions technical video series. If you like this particular video and the previous videos also, please make sure to share it with your friends and subscribe to your channel. Till the next video, goodbye from Swaroop IT Solutions. Thanks all. Have a good day.